sunny afternoon. The river's calm. The swimming is easy. Life can really be pretty simple if you're a duck. But if you're people, things can get a little complex, even in a nice city like Spokane. There are taxes and bills to be paid, crimes to be solved, traffic to be watched out for, local improvement districts to be improved, and many, many such things. So unlike our little feathered friends, people long ago decided they could live happier, healthier lives with more safety and convenience by setting up a city government. And that's what the people of Spokane did. Over the years, the people have continued to decide the type of government that would serve them and how it should function for the people. And many of them thought it would be a good idea to have that government provide an annual report on just how things are going. This is that report. Spokane is the largest inland city west of Minneapolis-St. Paul and north of Salt Lake City. It's the 68th largest city in the United States. It became the central metropolitan area of the Inland Empire, partly by design and partly by accident. In 1880, Spokane had 20 structures, both commercial and residential. But by lucky accident, Spokane was founded at a notch in the mountains from which cross-country railroads emerged into level country. And if there has been one pivotal event in the growth of Spokane, it was the coming of the Northern Pacific Railroad in 1881. Then another lucky accident. The discovery of gold in the Coeur d'Alenes during the winter of 1883 and 84. Spokane became the center of mining commerce for this region. By other accidents and designs, Spokane continued to grow. It is now the second largest city in the state, but clearly the city's future no longer lies with accident, but with design. The design will be intricate, forged by Spokaneites actively participating in their city's affairs, and city government providing responsive, responsible leadership. Very often, the best launching pad for moving ahead is a brief look at the immediate past, the year 1967. A review of all of the annual reports turned in from the various city departments reveals a common thread woven into the fabric of Spokane city government. A consistent effort to improve services with higher paid, better trained personnel. This was true even though the financial situation remained tight. It was accomplished largely through internal training and education, coupled with improved methods of operation. Plan was adopted in October, adjusting ranges and salaries. The stage was set for adoption of the full pay plan in January 1968. A survey reveals that present Spokane city salaries compare favorably with salaries on a national average. The comparison is as it should be, because the 1,571 city workers are more valuable, better trained. Some examples. 35 men of the Building Maintenance Division earned certificates for completing night classes in such work as acetylene and oxygen cutting and welding, scaffolding, glass cutting. course in fire investigation, hydraulics, first aid and rescue, mathematics, and English. 18 students began a 2-year pre-employment course at Spokane Community College in law enforcement technology. The course was established through the planning and preparation by all local law enforcement agencies, the city's civil service and personnel departments, and Spokane Community College. 16 employees completed a course in supervisory methods in municipal administration. Over 700 employees enrolled in a fleet safe driving program and are now competing to earn safe driving awards by avoiding preventable accidents. In addition, 85 city drivers graduated from a defensive driving class. And 17 city employees attended a municipal accounting course, part of an effort to have all the cities in this state use the same kind of bookkeeping. So in the year 1967, there was a definite upgrading in virtually all skills involved in running a city government, more efficiently, less expensively. Maintaining that 1,500-member workforce at a high level by attracting qualified persons, testing them, screening them for employment at the proper level. That's largely the responsibility of the Civil Service Commission. The 5-member commission is a masterpiece of balance between management and employees. 2 appointed by the City Council, 2 appointed by the employee groups, and 1 elected by the other 4 members. Perhaps second only to the proper personnel in the successful operation of a city government is the planning procedure. To what use will land be put? That's an essential question. The answer determines the future locations of arterials, schools, homes, businesses, parks, and utilities. Spokane's land use plan, looking ahead 30-35 years, was essentially completed in 1967. The City Plan Commission, non-paid citizens, using information provided by the technical planning staff, worked out the answers. For orderly development, it's necessary that the plans of all city departments, together with the plans of the community's private sector, be coordinated. This coordination was clearly demonstrated in the interesting and exciting project of developing Spokane's riverfront. So even the habitat of our little web-footed friends comes into the picture under city planning. The Parks and Open Spaces Plan, prepared by the Park Board and the City Plan Commission, and adopted by the City Council in 1965, proposed that a riverfront development plan be prepared to guide the diverse public and private ownerships along the river toward a coordinated development and beautification plan. In 1966, the City Council appropriated funds to engage a team of architects, landscape architects, and engineers as consultants for the City Plan Commission. The study began in 1967. By the end of last year, the team had completed several tentative concepts for the development of the river. They were presented to several public gatherings for review and comment. After the public's reaction to all concepts is evaluated, one of the concepts will be selected by the council. And following further refinement, the final plan will be ready this fall. The bold yet feasible ideas emerging for our riverfront were only a part of the far-flung activities and improvements that engaged the Park Department. Negotiations with the State Highway Department for its acquisition of most of Liberty Park for freeway purposes produced some areas of agreement in 1967, but an acceptable plan did not materialize until this year. The last improvements from the 1964 special levy were completed in 1967. Coordination of efforts from Sister Paula Mary of Fort Wright College and the Rotary Club of Spokane North produced a ceramic story column at Indian Trail Park, a unique work of art symbolic of an Indian totem pole. Made from local materials, it tells a story specific to the immediate park. Maintenance crews were mowing and top-dressing greens on the golf courses in January instead of the customary start in April. Play remained high despite the hot temperatures. The favorable, although failing vote for the almost $3.5 million park bond issue in November convinced the park department that people do have pride in their environment, their parks, their city. The board has requested the bond issue be placed on the ballot again in September. The City Council has authorized issuance of $200,000 in councilmatic general obligation bonds for golf course improvements to be paid off by golf course revenue. If the state bond issue for outdoor recreation passes, there could be $7 to $8 million, including matching funds available for park and riverfront improvements. There are many ifs involved, but it could happen. Crime here in Spokane, as elsewhere throughout the nation, was on the increase. The crime index comparing last year with 1966 shows one murder committed in 1967 compared to 4 the previous year. 15 rapes, up 25%. 83 robberies, up 107%. 52 aggravated assaults, up 16%. Over 1,100 burglaries, up 23%. Over 700 grand larcenies, up 47%. Nearly 600 cars stolen, up 22%. Nearly half the crimes were settled by arrest. The more serious crimes, of course, were tried in Superior Court, but Spokane's municipal court, often called police court, processed some 36,000 violations of city laws, an increase of over 2,000 the previous year. The bulk of these cases, nearly 28,000, were traffic violations. The balance were criminal violations such as drunkenness and disorderly conduct. The majority of these cases were settled by bond forfeiture, but still over 5,000 traffic cases and 7,000 criminal cases were actually tried by Judge Gordon Lauer. The Office of Corporation Counsel Norman Depender assigned one assistant full-time for prosecutor work in municipal court. The caseload also required the part-time work of one other assistant. While the purpose of the court is not to make money, but rather to correct behavior, the court nonetheless turned over nearly $500,000 to the city general fund. In addition to its police court work, the Corporation Counsel's office also prepares all ordinance laws, city council resolutions, and legal documents, approves all contracts submitted to the city, and acts as the official claims agent for the city. The Corporation Counsel also serves as legal advisor to all city officers. While Spokane continued to have a lower crime rate than the national average, the sharp increases were cause for concern. The Spokane Police Department, one of the best trained in the nation, was making every effort to reverse the trend. There were more fire alarms last year than in 1966. Nearly 200 more alarms for a total of 2,400. But they were less serious fires. No 3-alarm blazes, 5 2-alarm fires, 3 lives lost, 1 less than the preceding year. Firemen answered 4,600 calls. However, only a little more than half the calls were for actual fires. There were 400 false alarms, dangerous runs for no purpose. Assisting both the city police and fire departments was the Office of Civil Defense. 45 additional buildings were licensed as public fallout shelters. 26 new buildings were stocked, giving Spokane a total of nearly 200,000 fallout shelter spaces, more than the city's total population, in the event of enemy attack. Another activity vital to public safety is that of the Building Division. It is charged with the responsibility of enforcing provisions of the various codes relating to buildings and the city zoning ordinance. It is responsible for checking plans for all new building and structures to determine their compliance with the various code requirements, including structural stability, exiting, lighting, ventilation, and other city requirements. Such requirements are based on the premise that the public has a right to know that the buildings they enter are safe. Over 200 structures were demolished last year because they were inspected and found unsafe. As for construction, 1967 was an average year, over $18 million worth. Some of the major projects included the Convent of the Holy Names at Fort Wright, $1,795,000. The addition to the Spokane Club, $428,000. The Naval and Marine Corps Training Center, $665,000. The Temple Beth Shalom Synagogue at $400,000. Nearly 300 new single-family residences were built at a total value of over $5 million. The major construction project, of course, was the State Highway Department's freeway. An elevated ribbon of concrete and steel continued inching its way across the city just south of the business district. Freeway construction has been coordinated with city traffic planning, and in 1967, the one-way street system in the downtown core area was completed, with Lincoln, Monroe, and final portions of Main and Trent being included in the system. Two intersections, Division and Francis, and 29th and Grand Boulevard, were completely modernized. The number of accidents decreased. Over 8,000 new signs were fabricated, replacing worn-out ones, providing signs for new locations. Over 53,000 signs are maintained by the City Traffic Division. The division continued its policy of lighting around high schools, and 4 7,000-lumen mercury vapor lights were installed adjacent to Rogers High School. In addition to the Traffic Division projects, local improvement districts continued at a high level. These are projects usually initiated by the property owners themselves for such improvements as paving and sewers. In a remote way, our little feathered citizens will be enjoying a local improvement district of their own with the emerging Riverfront Development Plan. Even the water under their webbed feet is being improved as the city continued to make significant advancement toward the goal of eliminating all non-treated waste from the river. Deep underground flows this city's water supply. It is tested continuously by the City Health Department's laboratory staff to determine its purity and to assure that early steps could be taken should it ever be threatened. Spokane's water, one of its most precious assets, continued in pure and abundant supply at a bargain rate. 5 cents purchased 4,700 glassfuls. As with the water below the surface, testing goes on daily with the air above the city. Spokane is part of the Public Health Service Air Pollution Surveillance Network. Spokane's air, still relatively pure, will be further protected by an anti-pollution program now underway. Water and air testing is only a part of the services provided by the health laboratory. Over 10,000 tests were conducted last year to ensure the purity of the milk and dairy products sold in the city. The lab also serves as a useful adjunct to the police department and to the purchasing agent in making special tests and analyses. The nursing staff, as it has in the past, carried out its responsibilities for the school health program conducted in 23 parochial schools with a total enrollment over 7,000. The Spokane area, thanks to the sanitation staff, continued on the Milk Sanitation Honor Roll last year, the only area in the state to achieve that status constantly since 1950. In addition, the staff inspected and established standards for food handling in 380 restaurants, 46 bakeries, and 200 meat markets operating within the city. And a vigilant control program was maintained over the population of rodents and insects, keeping their numbers at a remarkably low level. But the affairs of city government involve more than streets and health and public safety. There are the recreational and cultural aspects of a city. During 1967, the Coliseum was the scene of a wide variety of entertainment and events that appealed to a broad cross-section of the community. An outstanding list of athletic events, including the State B basketball tournament, the annual Gymkhana, wrestling, the Spokane Jets hockey games, and pro boxing returned for the first time in several years, and the ever-popular Diamond Spur Rodeo. Civic events included high school graduation ceremonies and the grade school Salute to Christmas program and the annual Lilac Queen coronation. Statistically, the Coliseum was host to 622,000 persons, a slight increase over 1966. They devoured over 100,000 hot dogs, 150,000 ice cream bars, 350,000 soft drinks. Again, the big showplace registered a profit, an accomplishment not generally true with other community auditoriums. Joseph Albee Stadium continued to provide our community with a most desirable site for outdoor sports activities. A special $1/2 mil levy sponsored by the Coliseum Stadium Advisory Board raised $112,000 for needed improvements at the stadium, failed to get voter approval. Consequently, the need is still there for padding, seating, toilet facilities, concessions, and parking. Some unfinished business from 1967. A similar $1/2 mil special levy was turned down for the Spokane Public Library. The $112,000 would have gone for such non-luxury items as replacement of rusted plumbing, replacement of a 13-year-old bookmobile that is costly to maintain and has forced cancellation of some schedules, and added space to relieve heavy crowding by students in the periodical and microfilm center. Because the needs are essential, the Library Board decided to try again for the levy this September. Perhaps voters wanted more answers before voting yes. In any event, it was clear that Spokaneites were a curious group last year, and for their answers they turned more than ever before to the public library. The reference department was asked an average of 780 questions per day for a year's total of nearly 240,000 queries. Happily, almost all questions were answered. Potentially the most significant decision of the Library Board during the year was a joint agreement with the County Rural Library Board to request a study of merger possibilities. The word cooperation is becoming more and more important as knowledge increases faster than man can assimilate and disseminate it. Making a valiant effort to keep pace is your Spokane Public Library. In any annual report for a city the size of Spokane, there are likely over 1,500 different activities that are of concern to the people the city serves. Quite obviously, time does not permit a detailed account of each. But by rotating the emphasis, a future annual report could include a more thorough rundown on such activities. During the year 1967, there was progress, and there was disappointment, as reflected in voter rejection of some ballot measures. But more important and very fundamental, the city election of 1967 proved to be a clear, if indirect, endorsement of Spokane's present policies and goals. There was evidence of greater unity, optimism, and a belief that Spokane was on the right track. City Councilman David Rogers, an insurance man who had been in general accord with past council policies, was elected mayor by a decisive margin. He succeeded Neil Faucine, who retired after having served with distinction since the mayor-council-manager form of government was adopted in 1960. Veteran Councilman Del Jones, a high school teacher, was overwhelmingly re-elected. Jack Devine, owner-manager of an automotive service center, a newcomer to the council, was elected over a candidate who had frequently opposed past council actions. Alan Stratton, a maintenance supervisor, a member of the city council by appointment, won his election in a contest many observers felt was further evidence of the people's confidence in the present government. Jack Winston, a merchant, was elected to fill the council post vacated by Harry Syra. R.H. Bob Lewis, public relations man, and Northside grocer James Blodgett were holdovers. That was the city council lineup as the year 1967 ended. Obviously, the councilmen don't agree on everything. We have the roll call.
Jones. Jackson. Blodgett.
Aye.
Lewis.
No.
Devine.
Yes.
Winston.
No.
Rogers.
Aye.
But on basic policy, there is agreement, and that policy is explained by His Honor, Mayor David Rogers.
This is the second annual film report to our citizens. We hope through this media to keep our public informed of progress, problems, and the present overall situation at City Hall. Your government can exist and serve only through the approval of enlightened citizens. At this time, I would like to thank Crim Television for donating the time as a public service to present this program. And now I would like to introduce our city manager, Mr. Sylvan Fullwiler.
Thank you, Mayor Rogers. Once again, we are pleased to present to the citizens a filmed annual report of the activities of the city of Spokane. Its content stresses those areas of activities of your government during 1967, which we believe you will find interesting and informative. Our purpose in presenting these reports is to cover our responsibility to you, our citizens, to keep you abreast of your City Hall activities. We sincerely hope you find this program interesting.
For the people of Spokane and their government, the months ahead will not all be smooth sailing, as our little friends have it. There will be some ruffled feathers, some rough water, some battling upstream, more of the challenges that have made Spokane great. And these are the challenges as they are met that will keep her that